So my Warriors recap, my Warriors apology where I got it wrong. Look, growing up, there wasn't anybody who was a bigger Warriors fan than I was. Being born in Oakland, being raised in the Bay Area, I became a Warriors fan when I was in the fourth grade during the We Believe season. And I've just followed the team closely ever since then, coming home from school and being glued to the TV, watching Warrior games instead of doing homework, calling my older cousins and just, ranting to them, going on and on and on about basketball and what just happened in the Warriors game, and going over my cousins and my friends' houses to watch Warrior games. I remember where I was when Steph Curry got drafted. I've followed this team from start to finish. And this ring that they just got was the most impressive to me because I honestly think this is the weakest Golden State team out of all the teams. Now, the first time they won the ring, they had a deep bench and they had a bunch of veterans like Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, Barbosa. They had a bunch of guys who had experience in big games before. And they had a Steph Curry, a Klay Thompson, a Draymond Green, who the league wasn't really ready for that style of play. So they were able to get a ring facing against LeBron without Kyrie Irving or Kevin Love available because both those guys got hurt. The next two rings were with Kevin Durant on the roster. And when you add Kevin Durant to a team that has Steph, Klay, and Draymond, that's just overkill. Now, is it really overkill? James Harden and Chris Paul were able to take that team to 7 games. They were able to make it competitive. At the end of the day, no matter how many stars you have on the court, there's only one ball, so there's only one guy who has the ball in his hands at all time, And, styles make fights, and if you match up accordingly, you can compete with anybody if you bring your A game and you strategize. But, that Warrior team with Kevin Durant, they beat the Cavs in 5 games. And the next year, without Kyrie there, they beat the Cavs in 4. They swept them. So that team is one of the greatest teams of all time. It's the greatest team that I've ever seen with my own eyes. And that was the next 2 championships. And this last one, this 4th championship, they actually overcame a lot of adversity. Steph Curry got hurt. Klay Thompson got hurt. Draymond was hurt. You got a bunch of young guys on the roster. You got a bunch of new guys on the roster. Andrew Wiggins. And you got all these moving parts. And it was up to Steve Kerr. And this was his most impressive season. I said the season before when they made the play-in tournament was his most impressive season, but this was his most impressive season. The way he was able to make everything work with all the chaos that was going on. He really put up a masterclass in coaching. He is the best coach in the NBA. After all this, I have to say he is the best coach in the NBA. Now, Nick Nurse is the best exit-the-nose guy. Udoka and Ty Lue. Guys want to play for Udoka and Ty Lue. They bring out that dog in those guys. But Steve Kerr just managing personalities, managing everything that goes on in the NBA. As a guy that's been a player, a coach, a GM, a guy that's done color commentary, Steve Kerr just knows basketball. He's been around it forever. And like he said when the Warriors won the championship, he said, I hang around superstars. So he just gets it. He's just been here, done that. And it's just the perfect presence to have when you're building a dynasty. And I think we just don't mention it enough how big Steve Kerr is to this franchise. I wasn't big on Steve Kerr at first because I thought Mark Jackson really developed these guys, and I thought he got fired for the wrong reasons. We don't have to get into it right now, but if you follow the Warriors, you know Mark Jackson got fired for the wrong reasons, but you can't deny what Steve Kerr has done with this team once he got the team. He has just, the ball was rolling, and he just took it up another level. He took it up a whole another notch. So credit to Steve Kerr for what he did. And, we took the Celtics in the over in Game 6. But if I was going to take the Warriors, I would have took the under the 211 or the 211.5. Because every time the Warriors won, and it's the most impressive thing about this team, not only did they overcome adversity, but this Warrior team, they won playing a style that they don't really like to play. If they could have it their way, it would be up and down with pace, with Steph, Klay, Poole, all these guys shooting open shots, freeing themselves up, backdoor cuts, the whole 9. But every game that they won against the Boston Celtics this series, they held the Celtics under 100 points. If the Warriors were going to win, and it became very apparent after Game 2, and I said it even before Game 2, Draymond's going to have to put his fingerprints on this series. And he did it in Game 2, and he did it again in Game 6. He was mucking the game up. He was playing with physicality. He was putting himself in the midst of all of it. And that's what the Warriors needed. They needed Draymond to muck it up. They needed everybody to be willing defenders. Steph, people want to say what they want to say about his defense. Klay Thompson, he doesn't have the same lateral speed that he used to have. But everybody's buying in. Everybody's giving a full effort. Draymond is one of the best defenders in the league, guarding 3 through 5. You got Andrew Wiggins, one of the best defenders in the league, guarding 2 through 4. Gary Payton is one of the best on-ball defenders, putting him on a guard. He's a pest for guys like Ja Morant. He's a pest for guys like Jaylen Brown, getting under their skin, attacking their dribble, stripping them. He learned a lot from Andre Iguodala, who was great at that. Iguodala, he didn't really lock up LeBron James in those finals, but he did a great job of getting under his skin and just deflecting a lot of passes, tipping the ball away when LeBron's dribbling, making him have to gather himself up again, So the Warriors, they just bought in on the defensive end. And on the offensive end, look, there were some struggles against this Boston team. This Boston defense is incredible. And there were some struggles. They were down 2-1 in a real way. Like, they were really down 2-1 in this series. And Steph Curry put on a masterpiece. He had a masterpiece. He had just an incredible performance, dropping 43 in Game 4 and getting them that win. And once they tied it up 2-2, I thought Game 5 was the series where they went back to what they did in Game 2, and they just mucked it up. They made it a physical game. They played with a lot of energy. They played with some physicality. And it's not that the Celtics are punks, but we saw it with Milwaukee and we saw it with Miami, where the Celtics, they'll play with some physicality, but they're not necessarily a physical team. So if you bring elite level, like high level physicality, and you really come and rough it up, if the refs don't bail the Celtics out, they'll get enforced on a little bit. You can enforce on them a little bit with some physicality. And I thought the Warriors did a great job of realizing, hey, we got to get all over Jaylen Brown. We got to get all over Jason Tatum. Just smother them, make them feel uncomfortable. Because these guys, they don't want to handle the ball as much as they have to, but they have to because they don't really have a real point guard to settle them in. So kudos to the Warriors for understanding the assignment. And, my apology is mostly to the Warriors front office, because I never really doubted the Warrior players. I never doubted Steph, Clay, and Draymond. I'm smarter than that, than to doubt this core. This core can do anything. This core is, winning. Winning and Steph Curry is synonymous. Steph Curry and winning, it's synonymous. But my problem with this team was mostly with the front office, because I've never really seen a team build for the future while competing for the present, and competing for the present in a real way, And I don't know how this Warriors team would have matched up against the Suns. I'm going to go out and say that the Warriors would have beat the Suns, because the Suns have some chokers on that roster, like Chris Paul. But, and because DeAndre Ayton was having his own issues with Suns management, and it clearly was affecting his play. He clearly wasn't bought in all the way. There were some problems. But I just hadn't seen a team build for the future while competing for a title and really, really being a threat to actually win the title. I hadn't seen that before. So my issue with the Warriors was I wanted them to get a 7-footer. I wanted them to get somebody who could spell Looney some minutes, like a JaVale McGee type that could block some shots, get some rebounds, be a lob threat, where Steph Curry, similar to Trae Young, he gets into the paint, he gets a foot in the paint, and then he could do the floater, or he could lob it up. James Harden does this too, where the floater looks like a lob, and sometimes the lob looks like a floater, and it's hard for the defense to handle that, and then the center can just get some alley-oop dunks. And I wanted Steph Curry to have that option. And I wanted Steph Curry to have another veteran, how Otto Porter plays solid for them. But I wanted another guy kind of in that Otto Porter role who could have maybe got 10 points off of the bench for them. Somebody who they could just rely on for a bucket here or there. But the front office said no, and they said, hey, we're going to develop Kuminga, and we're going to keep Wiseman, and we're going to keep Moody, and we got Jordan Poole. And even though Jordan Poole doesn't make a lot of great decisions, we saw Jordan Poole, he had a lot of lucky shots, a lot of buzzer beaters, a lot of shots late in the shot clock where he just kind of threw it up, and it was a lot of prayers that just went in. And we saw the good and bad of Jordan Poole in this series. We saw his struggles with decision making. We saw his struggles on the defensive end. But we also saw that he's just a shot maker who can get hot and he can just light you up. So the Warriors decided to opt with keeping the young guys and developing them, and it ended up being a great decision because, they won the championship, and they still have this young core who they can develop alongside of these winners and around this winning culture. So it worked out perfectly. It's a dream come true. It's a GM's dream come true to win now and also be set for the future, because Jonathan Kuminga is going to be a star in this league. Jordan Poole, he's going to be a bucket getter. Moses Moody looks like he's going to be a great rotation player. And we'll see how Wiseman turns out. If Wiseman can give you something, that's going to be a really good four to work with going forward. And Wiggins isn't that old himself, so if you can keep Wiggins around, that's a really good five right there if they all develop into the players they can become. And I think Andrew Wiggins is going to get so much better as a player from this experience in the finals, going to the finals, going on this deep championship run. I think it's going to make him better going forward because Andrew Wiggins, the only weakness was maybe mentally and maybe just the inconsistency. But now that he went to the All-Star game and then had those choking moments, that cold stretch after making the All-Star team, and people started doubting, hey, are you really an All-Star? And then he balls out in the playoffs and wins a championship. I think now all the doubts are out of his head. He's going to get a new contract with the Warriors most likely. They're going to try to keep him because they know how important he is as a two-way wing. And I think it's just going to make him an even better player going forward. And if the Warriors are the 1 or 2 seed in the Western Conference next year, and if he remains as the second best player on the team like he was this year, how do you keep him out of the All-Star team again? I mean, I know Paul George and Kawhi were hurt this time around. Maybe if Paul George and Kawhi are healthy and they're balling out, they're going to get those spots. But other than that, how do you really keep Andrew Wiggins off the All-Star team if they're a number 1 or number 2 seed again? So I'm really happy for Wiggins. Really happy for Steph and Draymond, of course. Really happy for Klay, and I think Klay's going to be even better as he gets more time to recover from this injury and just, now that he's caught some game flow and he's been in some big-time pressure games and caught the feel of it. He went 5 for 20 in Game 6. It's not going to get much worse than that. He's only going to go up from here. He's going to get his legs under him, and he's going to do better as a defender. So the Warriors are big-time threats to win even more rings. The odds makers opened up with the Warriors as the favorites next year for the championship, and let's not get ahead of ourselves. We got to see how the offseason folds. But the Warriors are in a great position to win more rings. They're in a great position to get Steph Curry a 5th one. And getting Steph Curry a 4th one and him finally getting a Finals MVP, it puts him in that class where, we can say, hey, Steph Curry or Kobe Bryant. I think that's the conversation now. Steph Curry or Kobe Bryant. I got both these guys right outside my top 10. I'm not mad at anybody who has them in the top 10. I got both of them right outside the top 10, like right outside. And it's a conversation for who's better, Steph Curry or Kobe Bryant. I think we can officially start talking about that. I'm not going to get into that right now. I'll save that for another video, save that for another time. But Steph Curry versus Kobe Bryant, I think that's now the debate. Steph Curry finally got that big ring. This ring for Steph Curry was like when Kobe Bryant got that 4th ring against Orlando Magic when he finally won one without Shaq. I think it's very similar, or it's kind of similar. I think that was a better comparison, but it's almost a little similar to LeBron winning that ring in Cleveland, where it was like, yeah, he won them in Miami with D. Wade or whatever, but now he's winning it in Cleveland, coming back from 3-1, and it's his team. It's his team all the way. And Steph Curry, he won one, but you could say, hey, Kyrie and Kevin Love were hurt or whatever, and, you lost the next year, you choked, and then you got KD and you won 2 more, yeah, whatever. But this one, the adversity that they overcame and not necessarily having the most stacked roster or whatever, the things that he was able to do on both ends of the floor. In the game where he scored 43 points, he had 10 rebounds. He's one of their better defenders. I trust Steph Curry right now more than I trust Klay Thompson on the defensive end. Until Klay gets his legs back, I trust Steph Curry more because Steph Curry's putting up a fight and he's gotten a hell of a lot stronger. So he's giving it to you. He's always been a guy who could get steals, in the passing lanes or on ball stripping guys. So Steph Curry's he's doing it all right now. And he's the only guy I have in the top 5 who's not 7 feet tall or close to 7 feet tall. My top 5 in the NBA right now as of today, I'd have to go Giannis Antetokounmpo first. I have to put Steph Curry second. I'm not mad at you if you got Steph Curry first, but I can't put Steph Curry over Giannis. I can't have recency bias. Giannis won the championship just a year ago. And Giannis, if he has Chris Middleton, who knows what happens in that Celtics series, and who knows what's going to happen with the Bucks going forward. They're always going to be a force in the East, and he's a young guy still, and he's just a tank. I'll take the size, so I got to go Giannis first. I'll take Steph second. I'll take Jokic third because I can build around Jokic. I can trust Jokic. He's consistent. He's going to be healthy more times than not, and he's just not an issue in the locker room. You got to love Jokic, so I'll put Jokic third. I'll put Kevin Durant fourth, championship pedigree. He can score anywhere on the court. He's damn near a 7-footer doing what he does on the perimeter. So I'll put him 4. And I'll put Joel Embiid because he's pretty much like a more inside version of Kevin Durant. He's more of a big man version of Kevin Durant. Does a lot of similar things on the court to KD. less on the perimeter, more on the inside. But I'll put Joel Embiid fifth. And that's my top five right now. Giannis, Steph, Jokic, KD, Embiid. And we're really splitting hairs right here because all these guys, like, I'm not mad at anybody who makes the argument that Joel Embiid, who I have fifth, I wouldn't be mad if you said he was first. I wouldn't be mad if you said he was first. He's not first for me. But all these guys, you could make the argument for them being first, second, third. However you swamp those five guys out, I'm not mad at it. I'd put Luka Doncic sixth. I'd put Ja Morant 7. Actually, I'd put Jason Tatum 7. I'd put Ja Morant 8. Devin Booker 9. And that's like the top 9-ish from this season. Now, of course, if we add Kawhi Leonard and Paul George is going to be up there. And Kawhi Leonard's I'm probably going to put Kawhi Leonard, healthy Kawhi Leonard from what I'd last seen of him, I'd probably put him third. I'd probably go, Giannis, Steph, Kawhi, Jokic 4, KD 5, and then Embiid 6, and then all those guys would get bumped up, and Devin Booker would be 10th on my top 10, and then LeBron would be creeping right outside of that. Guys like LeBron, Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, Jimmy Butler, those guys, Paul George, those guys would be right outside of that. But I really got to write this down and really think about it. But Steph Curry, him and Kobe Bryant all time, that's the conversation. Steph Curry, him and Giannis, him and some of these guys for who the best in the league today is, that's another conversation. So this ring was huge for him. Golden State Warriors, congratulations. I apologize for doubting the process, doubting that you guys were able to build now and, build for the future and compete now. I'm sorry for doubting that. I just hadn't seen it happen before. It's amazing that you guys were able to pull that off, and I'm excited to see what happens next year with the contracts and trying to keep Poole and trying to keep Wiggins and how much you play Kuminga and Moody and what's going on with Wiseman. It's just going to be so much cool shit to see with the Warriors, so I'm looking forward to it. And Warrior fans definitely have something to be excited about, and once again, congratulations.